bring in Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com, also NBCSN, and he joins us now. Trade deadline, real possibilities here, Mike. Not just let's float this out here and get clicks.
Well, a couple of guys. What's wrong with getting clicks?
I'm sorry.
I got bills to pay, man.
All right, let's get some clicks.
Peyton Manning's being traded to the New England Patriots.
The Colts. Yeah.
Fred Davis, tight end, who's kind of become a forgotten man in NFL circles with the Washington Redskins. I reported last night that the Redskins are aggressively trying to move him. I almost get the feel that if they can't trade him, they'll end up cutting him. Jarris Byrd, the safety with the Bills, who's operating under a franchise deal this year. Bills aren't going to keep him next year. They're trying to move him as well. Beyond that, we just don't know. And one thing that we've seen in recent years, Dan, when a trade happens on deadline day, we didn't really see it coming, like Aqib Talib last year being sent from the Buccaneers to the Patriots. That wasn't one of the names that we were throwing around. So expect the unexpected to a certain extent. And we've had 7 first-round draft picks traded so far this year. That's more than what we usually see. So that makes me think that maybe something's going to bubble up here between now and 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Why wouldn't the Falcons trade Tony Gonzalez?
That's a great question because now Gonzalez is suggesting he'd be open to it. Gonzalez can't come out and say yet again, get me off of a bad team. That's a shot you fire once in your career. He did that in Kansas City. I don't know why the Falcons wouldn't do it. I understand that you still want to try to be competitive. You have season ticket holders who pay good money to come to the games, but I think it's an easy sell to your fan base that, hey, Tony Gonzalez is done after this year. He's not coming back next year because we were bad this year and we're going to take one more run at that Super Bowl. We want to give this guy a chance to get to a Super Bowl. He came back for that reason, and we get something in return for it that will help us be better next year. If he stays to end the season and retires, we get nothing next year to help us improve the football team.
And Jared Allen, I can't see him coming back to the Vikings because they're not ready to win right now, and it's sort of the same situation here. If you can trade him to a contender, a team like Denver, I mean, I don't know how many teams can fit him in, but the likelihood that Jared Allen is traded from the Vikings.
It's gotten quiet since Sunday, but when Jay Glazer, who's very close to Jared Allen, comes out and says that on the pregame show on Fox on Sunday morning, that got people's attention. And who knows what's been happening behind the scenes since that fairly embarrassing loss on Sunday night. The Vikings give up 44 points. They're 1-6. And it does make sense to get something of value for a guy who's not going to be with you next year, especially as you're trying to rebuild this team. I mean, the Vikings are a long way from what we saw last year, and they've got a long way to go to get competitive. And if Allen's going to walk out the door, why not get something back for him that can get you a rookie next year who can maybe develop into one of your core players?
The meeting between the commissioner and Daniel Snyder, owner of the Washington Redskins, what's this meeting about?
Well, it's about the name of the team, but it just seems too coincidental that Roger Goodell's meeting with Dan Snyder the day before Oneida Indian Nation shows up in New York City for a meeting with league officials. And it's not known whether or not Goodell is going to be part of that meeting. But why would you have a meeting the day before the meeting with Oneida Indian Nation so you can say, well, we talked to Mr. Snyder yesterday, and he remains adamant that he's not going to change the name? And the other problem it creates, if Snyder's there today to meet with Goodell, why not stick around until tomorrow to meet with the representatives from Oneida Indian Nation? I don't understand this one. I don't think the timing helps anybody, and it gives the opponents of the name further ammunition to say Snyder just doesn't care, or he would have stuck around.
Well, I also look at it differently, that the commissioner is bringing him in, and the commissioner can't make this decision, but he can say to Dan Snyder, here's what I would recommend. If I'm Snyder, how did this story get out in the first place?
Well, it was reported by CSN Washington, and I think the Washington Post has it, and I don't know it's the kind of thing that gets out unless somebody wants it to be out.
But that's what I wanted to know, because that would be one of those, if I'm the commissioner or I'm Daniel Snyder, the last thing I want to get out is we're going to meet to discuss this. Because if Daniel Snyder's set in his ways and the commissioner's not involved in this, then why are they meeting?
Well, that's right. And the fact that they're having a discussion about it, it gives the opposition legitimacy. Meeting with Oneida Indian Nation gives the opposition legitimacy at a time when the Redskins and the people who support the name would just want this all to go away. These things give it more credence, and they give it more life, and they keep it around. And I don't know what you do tomorrow. What's the meeting consist of tomorrow? Hello, we're going to keep the name. We'd like you to change the name. We're going to keep the name. We want you to change it. You just go back and forth until somebody gets bored with it and moves on.
As far as the Redskins on the field, RG3, banged up in the loss with Denver, but I don't know. This was the other knee that got banged up here, or how banged up is he? I'm not quite sure.
He's destined to have bookend braces on both of those legs. I mean, whether it's now or later. Because here's the thing. He's in that Mike Vick, Jay Cutler category now where we just assume he's going to get hurt. At some point, he's going to get hurt, and he's going to miss time, and you better keep Kirk Cousins as long as you can, because if this guy's going to play the way that makes him the most effective, he's going to get banged up and he's going to get hurt. And 1 week it's going to be, well, he's fine, and then a few weeks later it's going to be, well, maybe he's not fine. Yeah. And it just feels like he's destined every year of his career to get injured in some way. He just can't hold up for a 16-game season like Vick and Cutler.
Well, I'm also wondering about Brandon Merriweather. He makes these comments, or I guess I'm going to have to go low and tear up some ACLs. I don't know if he could be fined for those comments, but the point I made is it's as if a pitcher throws at a hitter, then your pitcher is going to protect your hitters the next time around. I don't know if this comes back to haunt the Redskins, that other defenders going, you're going to go after my players, my teammates. We're going to go after your teammates, and the person who's got a bullseye is RG3.
Well, and here's the thing. From Merriweather's perspective, there's nothing you can do because that's a legal move. You can go low. And we hear that all the time. Tony Dungy and Rodney Harrison say that all the time in the viewing room. Guys have no choice but to go low. I think there's an option to go middle, and I think that's what the NFL ultimately would like, but the rules allow you to go low. Now, for quarterbacks in the pocket, you can't go low, but once RG3's out of the pocket, you can go low all you want. And once he's a runner, he's got the same lack of protection as everyone else. So you're right. The guy who least wants to hear Merriweather pop off about going low is the quarterback of his team.
Andy Reid's success in Kansas City. How much pressure is that putting on other coaches who are going in and taking over teams?
Oh, well, here's what it does. If you're a coach of a bad team, your owner is going to say, okay, we can continue with this guy that can't win more than 5 games, or I can go out and find the next Andy Reid who's going to turn me around and not just make me a playoff contender, make me a Super Bowl contender in 1 year. The fact that Reid was available because he finally got to the point where Jeffrey Lurie decided he needed to make a change, that created a change in Kansas City that's going to make other owners less patient and say, I'm getting rid of Leslie Frazier in Minnesota, or I'm getting rid of this guy, I'm getting rid of that guy, because if I make the right hire, I'm instantly a contender, and Andy Reid's success proves that.
Well, the other thing is that I brought it up to Tony Dungy yesterday, and I know he doesn't want to come back, but Lovie Smith as a coach to replace Greg Schiano, I think it's a real possibility. Now, they've talked about, Tony then would come in and be the GM, and he says, no, I have no interest in that. But Lovie Smith in Tampa, could you see that happening? I
tell you what, Dan, they should do that right now, and here's why. First of all, it's exactly what the team would need. It's what the fan base needs. It's what the locker room needs. And if you wait until the end of the season, you're going to be boxing out 4 or 5 other teams because Andy Reid's success is going to make Lovie Smith more desirable because Smith fits that same formula, a consistent contender coach who finally wore out his welcome, but he's a guy who's proven he can win. You bring him in, you can turn a team around quickly. If the Bucs don't get him by the end of the season, they're going to have to pay a lot more because I think there's going to be 4 or 5 teams at the front of the line trying to get this guy.
Good stuff as always, Mike. We'll be keeping an eye on Pro Football Talk, and of course you can see Mike a little bit later on today on NBC SN. What time are you on today?
5:30 Eastern Time.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you, buddy. That's Mike Florio.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.